We're back. So now I want to touch on some of the films that you're known for. So we've kind of gone behind the scenes, some of the things that people might not know about William Butler. What do you prefer?
Billy. My friends call me Billy.
All right.
William is, if you can tell if I don't like you, I introduce myself as William.
All right.
Because that's really, strangers call me William. Call me William.
I was going to say, how'd you introduce yourself to me? I don't remember now. You have to look back at the tape and see if you like me.
I don't know. Who knows?
All right. Okay. So we're going to get into some of the films, and I kind of, I want to, you've been in a lot, so I'm not going to get into all of them, but let's get into some of the ones that you're probably sick of talking about, but we're going to have to anyway. Friday the 13th, Part 7, and Blood. How did you get that role?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, at that point, I was just ready to make the jump from doing effects to acting only. Mm-hmm. And I went to Buechler's shop. Buechler asked me to come into his shop one day. And he said, and Kane Hodder was there. Kane I had known because I'd worked with Kane on the movie Prison. He played a ghost in this movie Prison, which starred, at that time, my roommate, Viggo Mortensen. Mm-hmm. And Kane was there getting his body cast done again, which I thought was weird because we had already done it for Prison. I was like, okay, whatever. And he's like, hey, go in my office and read the script in there. I think I have a cool acting part for you. And I was like, okay. So I go in his office and there's this script on his desk called Birthday Bash. Mm-hmm. And I'm reading it and it's about these idiot campers that go to a birthday party in the woods. And then a guy with a hockey mask goes and kills them all. And I'm like reading it going like, has Buechler lost his fucking mind? So I go out there and I'm like, yeah. And he's like, do you like it? Do you love it? I'm like, yeah. The killer's gonna wear a hockey mask? Goes, yeah. I go, but I mean, isn't that a little close to a Friday the 13th movie? He goes, that's because it is a Friday the 13th movie. And I was like, what? So the movie had a fake title to get away from the
and they all seem to, like, you hear that story a lot, how it's always a fake
because they were burning sets down. They're like the friggin' mafia, like and really? It's not so much that way anymore. Well, now that I produce, they back then they make a low budget film was $8 million back then, so there's money. But the Teamsters show up on a set now, and you're like, we want to flip your set. And you're like, okay, great. Here, let me sit down with my $120,000 budget. Let me know where you guys fit into this, and I will give you every penny. And then they leave because there's no money. But back then, there was a lot of hidden money that went to producers and stuff like that. So they would show up. So anyway, so it was called Birthday Bash. And then at the time, I was doing a lot of comedy and improv stuff. And the role was like a stupid rocker person that was kind of based on a character that I was doing in the improv thing. So I was like, yeah, I can pull this off. And then I went in and I read a couple times, and then I can't really remember. I remember my callback being the same shit as I had to pee and get killed. And I remember.
So you were reading for Buechler.
Agent.
You were reading for
Buechler and Anthony Barneo, who's casting it, and a bunch of the other, forget the lady, Barbara Sachs. She was a piece of work. She was one of the producers. And I remember getting a call from my agent saying, well, Hillary Shore from Flick, she's the Hollywood's meanest agent. And I think she only took me on because Viggo was my roommate, because Viggo was her big client. She goes, well, you booked the Alabama job. I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? She goes, yeah, and oddly enough, you're not playing a rocker, you're playing a nerd yuppie. I can't understand why they made that switch. I'm like, well, maybe because I am a nerd yuppie. So they changed it. As it turns out, it was okay. It was a very small part, and it was actually bigger in the one that we shot, but ultimately it was, me running around dressed as Katharine Hepburn from On Golden Pond, looking like an old lady the way I was dressed, and getting killed and being afraid of having Lyme ticks all over me. But it worked out.
So how long were you on set for that one?
About 2 months. Like, we filmed the interior of the cabins. Interior of the cabins was filmed in LA. All the stuff that was inside was over by where they shot Buffy the Vampire Slayer, by the 10 freeway. And I was actually the very first person that Kane killed dressed as Jason. I was the first shot he did was me in the kitchen getting stabbed and vomiting.
Oh, really?
That was his first shot, yeah. And by then, him and I were friends, so it was. I really by
That's
then
cool.
felt like I was part of Hollywood and the movie making system because I had worked with most of the people on that set, and I wasn't intimidated, and I just felt like, all right, let's do this. By then, and
So
and
you were
we filmed that.
responsible for Kane's departure, ascension into stardom.
Well,
Jason.
not
It was
really, but I
you.
mean, I am in the sense that I'm not, but I am in the sense that I did the makeup on him in the movie Prison. Well, I didn't do the sculptures of the appliances, but I applied it and colored it all. And that makeup is the makeup that Paramount watched to see if Kane could play Jason.
Wow.
And so I do have a part in that. I do
That's
feel
awesome.
responsible for
Oh,
that.
that's
And
awesome.
I think actually that makeup was better than the Jason makeup, but who's counting? I used to say that Jason's head looked like a pot roast, and that other one, it looked like a very delicious, falling from the bone, delicious meat head that Jason had.
Well, I'd love to see that because Part 7's makeup I thought was awesome, like because
It's really good. Yeah.
it incorporated everything, right?
And
It was
Kane,
like
it's also Kane selling it, and I think a whole bunch of people built the suit, and the suit was very simple. I think it was like long johns with like a spinal cord and a bunch of spatula foam latex. It was a very simple suit, as I recall. And the pieces were meticulously sculpted by I think a guy maybe by the name of Greg Johnson, Jeff Farley. I can't really remember, but it was a really good makeup. I think that's the best looking Jason. I can't think of a better. Oh, I like the one in Part 2. I think he's really good.
Part
at the end with
3 where he's in the window.
No, the one.
When he jumps through the window.
Yeah, and he's
that one's good. Yeah. I mean, but there's two different types, right? There's the Jason when he was just like a mongoloid, kind of more realistic, and then the supernatural. But like, as far as I'm concerned, for Part 7, they really nailed the makeup by incorporating all his war wounds. It was all logical. It all made sense.
Yeah.
And then they never went back to anything like that.
No, and some of them look really bad.
Oh man, and it's so disheartening.
I remember I was auditioning for April Fool's Day. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
I was on
Amy
the Paramount. No, I was at Raleigh Studios, and I went to go audition for April Fool's Day. And there was a guy, I think his name's Chris Swift. He did the Jason from what's the one where they stab it down? Or
Part 3.
Scary.
The Axe.
Yeah. That looked really good.
Yeah.
The sculpture looked really good.
Really?
I don't know how I ended up looking on camera. It looked really good. Yeah. And I remember they were sculpting in a little trailer at the Raleigh Studios right across the street from Paramount. And I read with Debbie Farman. I was so mad I didn't end up getting it. Clayton got it. What's his name? Clayton. What's his name? Anyway, there are certain people in your trajectory of your acting career that when you show up in the audition room and you see them sitting there, you know that you're plan B. Clayton was one of them, and David Arquette was positively the other one. I went to a callback and I saw David Arquette sitting there, I was like, fuck. Like,
I want to actually
younger, slightly hotter. Okay, I'm not getting this. He would get it. He would get it every single time.
Really? Yeah, that's disheartening.
But whatever.
We'll get into.
You become a hooker when you go to auditions. You just go home and.
You have such beautiful pet names for your work. I tell you.
That I'm a hooker. I'm a whore. I mean, have you been to Hollywood?
No. Well, yeah.
Don't come here.
Not in a working capacity, but
yeah.
Okay, so you're on Friday the 13th. So you're obviously okay. You're like you said, your part isn't that big, but you're there for the duration. Is that it? Like you're they keep everybody around.
Well, the thing it was the greatest acting part ever. I'm gonna switch these things. Hold on. It's the greatest acting part ever because. Are you there? Did it connect? Can you hear me?
I can, and a few other people. Maybe not a few other people. Don't get worried. But wait, no. I think we were good.
The other one's dead. So the good thing about this acting part was I was making a fortune, and even though I was only in a few scenes, I kept coming back as a vision. So it would be like one scene, I'm hanging in a tree, one scene, I'm in the kitchen, one scene. And so it'd be like, oh shit, we can't do the hanging in the tree scene until we go to the other side of Alabama. And that's the last week of filming. So I would just be hanging out, partying my ass off, sleeping with the cast and crew. And that's not true. I know everyone wants to hear that, but that really isn't true. Just having a fucking great time in Point Clear, Alabama, which, by the way, has been wiped off the face of the earth from a hurricane. Like,
oh, really? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So okay,
I'm bummed out. I'm gonna.
And you're
let me. Could you wait just one second? I'm gonna get a thing to charge this so it doesn't go dead on you.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you're gonna eat. I promise you're gonna eat. Don't worry. The dogs are like, 6 o'clock came and went, dude. All right. Plug this one in. Okay, so one of them will be charging. We'll have that one. Okay. So I would have 2 weeks off, and so I would just go hang out on set. Or at a certain point, I started helping dress Kane.
Oh, you did?
Or just help on set. Yeah, just out of boredom. Like, for instance, they made up that whole thing when Terry Kaiser gets killed with the weed whacker.
Yeah.
It was originally, I want to say, a machete, and Kane and Terry were like, yeah, we don't like that. So they thought of something creative, and they came to me with the blade, and I was sitting in the makeup trailer and like, can you make a fake blade for us to put in there? So I just traced that blade on a pizza box and took an X-Acto blade and cut it and spray painted it silver and made it look rusty. And
that's cool.
Yeah, so it's just a cardboard blade that's in that thing. Still would have killed him, I imagine, but anyway. So
it was a fun set then. Like, I mean, because like, yeah, like I always wondered, like, you have a smaller part, but at the same time, like if you're kind of just locked into the location, or if they fly you in and out and stuff, so you kind of had the best of both worlds.
They do, and they would have, but because I'm a monkey that's ambidextrous, Buechler knew that odds are I could pick up a day here and there dress. I loved Kane. I still do. Him and I are really good friends. I mean, we were there together the last day that Buechler was alive. We were at the hospital with him.
That's awesome.
I mean, I'm very close friends with him. So I'll help. I'm still to this day. I'm getting a little older. I'm not so good at loading equipment anymore as I used to be, but I'm willing to do anything on set. I just love being on a movie set,
What's your familiarity with the term Friday the 13th, Part 7?
I really hate that. For one, anybody that calls it that, and anybody that suggests that it was some kind of homo hoedown was not there, because none of that was happening. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Sure, there are a ton of gay people on the set.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a ton of gay people on every set.
I was going to say, was it any more?
The people that wrote this fucking book, have they ever been on a movie set? I mean, half the people there are fags. I mean, I don't know what fucking groundbreaking scoop. I absolutely hate that, because there's so many more interesting things to talk about than who's banging who, and nobody on that set was sleeping with each other.
Yeah, but that's
when we got home, we reinvented the wheel. But I'm just saying, you don't have time, and you don't know the people. I mean, it just was not happening. It wasn't. I mean, and also, you guys have to understand, I'm really, you're the only person that's had the nerve to ask me that question, because it's a real issue for me. And I'll tell you why. Because being an artist is one thing, and being gay is another thing. And those two things do not clash when you're telling a story. It doesn't mean anything, nothing. And you have to understand that at the time that we made this movie, if you told anyone, if you could pull off being straight and you told anyone of your personal situation, you weren't going to work anymore. Okay? It just was not going to happen. It was a very, very solid rule. So the very idea that everybody was fluttering around set like butterflies and banging each other, it just is not true.
Yeah. So it didn't come from in-house. It came from like some media story.
No, it's the people that wrote that Friday the 13th book. And I myself was misquoted in that book. I went and I was excited to
Crystal
be a part
Lake
of
Memories, correct?
hmm I was excited to be a part of the book. I liked the people that were doing it. I don't recall their names now, but at the time I thought they were cool guys. And they seemed to be very excited about that element of it. And it's so disappointing because there's so many other stories that are so much more interesting than that element. For them to like focus all that energy on an entire chapter in a book when nobody was talking about it, no one. I can't imagine that you've heard from anyone that there was any discussion at all. Like I said, when we got home and we're all drinking and hanging out and being ourselves, that's one thing. But at work, there was absolutely nothing at all. It really pisses me off. And some people in the book that I agreed to, some people were really hurt by that. I was misquoted as outing someone, which I would never do in a million years. And it's an irritating subject, and it shits on not only the actor's work, but it shits on a franchise and makes it some silly, kitschy thing when it was really like a lot of really excited performers and artists that were really focusing on the movie and not on banging each other. I can promise you that. It's really stupid.
I can understand your point of view. I guess, I mean, I can't say I speak for everybody, but being a massive Friday the 13th fan, and that's my franchise. Like, I don't think it casts any sort of negative light. I mean, obviously from your perspective, it's different.
I think it's kind of a like, funny thing, but it's just not. It wasn't a thing. Like,
since I've read the book, I've watched Friday the 13th.
Let me tell you something. If they're looking for homosexuals on the Friday the 13th franchise, they ain't fucking digging deep enough, because they're in every single one. I mean, I don't know why that one got branded with a rainbow. I'll never understand. It's just such a non-issue. And by the way, it's a non-issue in life too. I just don't think it's anything.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Again, I mean, and that Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street has the same thing with part 2 as well. Like, there's that whole thing circulating in.
Well, now that one's super gay. No, I'm kidding. I mean, now that one. Okay, now that. I'm just saying.
But I didn't notice it. I'll be completely honest, and I'll make myself sound like like a naive goofball. But I didn't notice it until I watched the documentary of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2.
I didn't really pay. Well, I was so thirsty for anything Freddy Krueger. I mean, the minute those things would come out, I would be in the theater the day of. I wanted to know what was happening. I didn't really. I kind of got it, but I didn't really give it. Like, again, back then you didn't really pound the subject home, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because it was taboo, and so
it's amazing.
I kind of thought, oh well, maybe it seems kind of that way, but I love anything Nightmare on Elm Street. I wish they would do another one with Robert Englund, something that's not Freddy versus Jason. I want to do. I want to see like a new Freddy movie. I tried for years to get this. I had this pitch. I literally had gone around and gotten every single final girl from every single horror franchise. I mean, you cannot name one. I had them all. I had all the Hellraiser girls. I had the Friday the 13th final girls. I had the Freddy girls. And I was pitching a movie about these women that were survivors of this serial killer. And Hollywood's so fucked that the number one note was like, we love your pitch. We think that you've created something that's incredible. We have one note for you, and that's write out anybody over the age of 30. So, and that was 90% of the cast. So, I mean, just should tell you how the business works,
for sure.
I can't believe you asked me that question. Do you know that no one has ever asked me that question about Friday the 13th? No one.
I'm getting that a lot.
Not one person.
I'm getting that a lot from you. Well, I mean, I hope you're not offended. I mean, this is a chance.
I'm not offended. I'm mostly. I see these things. I mean, they asked after they put me, and I was in that book, and I was so thrilled to be having that lovely picture in the book. It's been terrific signing that book through all these years, and that part's really great. And I know they meant well, but there's something about gay people on the peripheral edge of show business, not really in show business, but they're kind of looking in the fish tank that is show business, and they want somebody to wave their hand and say, I'm gay, and it was a really gay set, and like they want that. And I understand that inclusion, that sense of inclusion, but the fact is it just really wasn't like that. And so
Yeah.
for them to nurture it in not only the book, but also in that documentary, which I finally wised up and was not going to be a part of. And I'm glad I did it, because if you watch the documentary, that's all they talk about.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because again, like, I mean, that's not the average fan isn't in tune to that. And,
Who
you know, like, I
cares?
mean, yeah, but that's the thing. And nowadays, again, like you said, who cares? I mean, it's the world is totally different. And that, I mean, I don't know. I don't, like I said, since I've seen that documentary, since I've read that book, I've watched Friday 13th Part 7 numerous times. And that doesn't go through my head. I watch it.
It doesn't even occur to you. And
No, it doesn't.
all those people were tremendous actors that were really, really nice people. And to focus on that, have that be the main part of your focus, it's gross. And it's just,
well, it was
so
that and all
icky.
the edits. It got caught.
Yeah, well,
right?
that was.
It was one. It was negative to negative with Part 7.
Poor John.
Unfortunately.
Yeah,
But,
poor John.
Yeah, I know.
It was a really fun experience, and I will tell you. I know I've brought up my book several times, but I really want you to read my book when it comes out, because you will love the Friday the 13th chapter. You will love it.
All right.
Yes.
Awesome.
There's stories I have never told
That's
that
great.
you just will not believe. I think it's probably the best part of the book. I know that Jerry Smith, is that his name? Yeah, the writer. He read it. I let him read the book, and he just was like, "Oh my God, why have you never told anyone this?" I was like, "Oh,
wow,
you know."
Okay, that's
You'll have to see. Yeah, you'll have to see it to believe it.
Awesome, that's
great. I think a story that ends with me driving a golf cart into Alabama Bay is worth the price of admission alone. So,
all right.
Now, if they wanted to talk about something with Friday the 13th, they should have talked about how drunk and coked out we were. Now that
Okay.
was a story.
So I don't know, like maybe some people would be more offended if that came out, but I guess you're okay with it, right? So
well, maybe sober gay people. I don't know. No, I'm kidding.
All right. So we could spend a lot of time, and we have been spending a lot of time on these. So you've been very, very good with your answers, and I feel like I could talk to you all night, but I want to move on to Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3. Okay. That was another, again, we're kind of going off the greatest hits, William Butler's greatest hits. So we go to that film. Was that experience? That movie looked like it was tough to make. I don't know. That just from my perspective, but was it a good time, or was it? By
then I knew what I was doing. I think I'd started.
It was a couple of years later.
Yeah, I'd starred in like 8 movies, and by the 9th movie, I was like, yeah, okay, now I know how to act. Okay. So I was there, and that was the was the movie that made me feel so happy, because I didn't know anyone. I wasn't doing anything other than acting. I went in to New Line to read for it. I had met Jeff Burr before on another movie that he was doing, From a Whisper to a Scream, I think he had just done. I was a fan of. I think he was getting ready to direct something else, and I wanted to be in it. And him and I met, and we really hit it off. And I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to work. He was just such a nice person. And then I started going in to New Line, and I was getting called back on this film. And then I found out Jeff Burr was directing it, and I was just so excited to get to see him again. And then one thing led to another, and I ended up in the movie, and I cannot even tell you how. I mean, literally, there must have been 500 guys there, and the most beautiful dudes in town. And I got it, and then me and Kate Hodge, was me, Willie Garson from Sex and the City, the bald guy from Sex and the City. It was me, Willie, and Kate Hodge, and Marcia Cross. You know who Marcia Cross is?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
We were the final 4. And then she was really pretty. She was on a soap opera. I'm not saying that Kate isn't pretty, but she was on a soap opera at that time period. So she had that big like soap opera hair and lots of makeup. And I went in and I read with her, and I was thinking, oh my God, a girl like this is never going to fucking date a shitbag like me. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to get this. And then so I go back in the lobby, and then they call it Kate, and Kate had very little makeup on, a ponytail, and she's a jackal like I am. We hit it off immediately in the room, and we're like ignoring them and like talking and laughing. And then we went out, and then Willie went in, and then Willie went into audition, and then came out of the audition room and was like, "Have fun on the fucking movie," and then just like stormed off. And I was like, so they called me back in, and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna use you." I was like, "Yeah, I think I take it you broke the news." So then they asked me, "Who do you feel more comfortable with?" They had already made the decision. It wasn't that I influenced them, but I was like, Kate Hodge would be a person that would date me. That other girl's too like LA pretty, like she wouldn't date me. And then that's what happened. And then we got it. And
that's the director in you.
Well,
right? That's the director in you right there.
Yes, and thank God that's the only director that's been in me. Thank you. But anyway, so I went home. I was living with Viggo at the time, and Viggo Mortensen was my roommate. Well, we split a house since I worked on the movie Prison in Rawlins, and he was helping me study. And he was like, "Who's playing Tex?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Well, some guy had booked it, and the guy dropped out 2 days before we started shooting. And then I was like, "Viggo, the guy quit." And Viggo was already kind of getting famous. I think I want to say he had already done Indian Runner, but I could be wrong. But he was definitely famous for modeling and famous. Everyone knew who he was, and he was absolutely beautiful at that time. And since then he's obviously hit the wall. So
I was going to comment on that, but
yeah, he's ugly now. But anyway, he goes, "I'll read for it." And I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." So I call Annette Benson, the casting director, was like, "Do you think Viggo Mortensen would be good for the role of Tex?" And she's like, "Yeah, good luck getting him in here." I'm like, "I live with him, and he said he'll come in." So he went in, and he read, and he ended up getting it.
Wow.
Now, Jeff Burr tells a story differently. I don't know. Jeff Burr's story is slightly different than mine, but I live with him, so, do the math. But.
Wow. So you also made Viggo Mortensen. That's you're
I made Viggo Mortensen.
You are
Viggo had a giant career before he met Billy Butler. So
well, that's awesome. So we'll talk a little bit about him, but I want to know how on that film, how long were you hanging upside down for?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you asked that. Well, you're only allowed to hang upside down for like 5 minutes at a time. It's as if you haven't read my book, have you? It's weird because all the questions you're asking, there's a big thing about that. You're only allowed to hang upside down for like 5 minutes, and or you start like, I don't know what happens. You get a bloody nose. I don't know.
Start to die.
They were pulling me up, and then I was hanging there, and I was just thinking, oh my God, here I coming fresh out of Stella Adler's acting class, hanging upside down by my ankles, and Viggo teasing me and swinging me around back and forth, and but I was in a studio movie. I was happy. You could hang in the trees. I really didn't care. I felt incredibly.
You really sound honestly, you sound like an incredible guy to work with, and you really kind of rolled with a lot of the punches because I mean some of the stuff.
Acting wise, I think the reason why I kept acting, I was never ever Robert De Niro ever. But I tell you who I was. I was the actor on set reading a book like really quietly, and then they go, "Billy," and I go, "Yes." And they go, "Yeah, we need you." Okay. And I go do my part, and then I just shut up and I just read the book. I don't complain about my hotel room. I didn't fuck all the other actors. I wasn't fighting. I didn't care about how I looked.
Yeah.
And that goes actually a very long way, believe it or not. If you're just someone that they know won't fuck it up and you're reliable.
Oh, for sure.
I believe that a lot of my repeat business was because I was easy to get along with.
Yeah, it's got
to be. I believe that is so.
It's got to be in every industry, right? Like, I mean,
oh my God, I can't tell you how many people that would be on set that were young that would be a complete nightmare, and that you'd never hear from them ever again.
You did the right thing. All right, I would like to spend a little bit more time on Texas, but I want to talk Night of the Living Dead.
Okay.
So Night of the Living Dead comes along, and is it because did you know Savini? How did you get this role?
No, I didn't know him. Johnny had worked with him for a while. So Viggo got booked on Young Guns 2, and Viggo asked me to come to New Mexico with him. And he had just had a newborn baby. His wife was Exene Cervenka from the rock band X, and they were on tour. So he said, "Can you come to New Mexico with me and watch my son while I'm shooting?" I said, "Yes." We went to New Mexico. So while we're at New Mexico, Vulich calls me. He was working on Monkey Shines. Is that a movie, Monkey Shines?
Yeah,
Where the monkeys
Stephen
killing
King,
people. Yeah. So Vulich was working on Monkey Shines, and he said, "Hey, they're going to do Night of the Living Dead." And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "There's a part. I just read the script. There's a part that's like written for you." I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "Send your demo tape." By then, I was a known face in horror.
Mhm.
Send your demo tape to Savini. I think he's going to like you because he keeps saying he wants somebody super vulnerable to play that part. And I was like, cause I don't know, because the other guy was like so butch and like, and I'm like, I'm not. And he's like, no, he doesn't want to do it that way. He wants to be like a softer guy. I was like, okay. So I sent my tape, and then you have to understand, this is not electronically. This is calling my agent. She mails me the tape. I mail the tape to Savini, and these are weeks that are passing by. So Savini likes your tape. He wants you to audition for the role of Tom. I was like, okay. So Viggo, I had this camcorders had just been invented. They were huge, you know. And Viggo actually taped me doing my audition for Night of the Living Dead. He directed me in my audition for Night of the Living Dead. And then we sent this clunky tape to them. And then like a month and a half went by, and Willis is like, "Have you heard from them?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Dude, they really like you. The way they talk, it's like they're using you." I'm like, "No way." So Savini called and me, and I got on the phone with him, and he said, "I really like you, and I would like to offer you the role." And I literally burst into tears. I was so happy because we grew up, you know, worshiping Savini, and we grew up worshiping George Romero. And so for that to happen the way it did was incredible. It was a really good thing.
So I'm going to say two things. One is, out of all the things I've seen you in, I think you were the best in Night of the Living Dead.
I agree with you.
I thought you
Yes.
did a really, really good job on that one. And
Thank you.
And this one I take a little bit of abuse for sometimes, but I feel I personally like that remake better than the original.
Okay,
I think
so
it's a brilliant film.
I'm a horror film fan, and I have to tell you, I'm 50-50. I think they're two completely different movies. I love the, you know, I love the like black and white, you know, midnight movie vibe of the first one. And I also love that the other one feels like a modern day movie. I think they're completely different. They really are completely different. Well, I love them both. I really do. And you're right. I do feel by then, like I said, by Leatherface, I was there with some bad choices I made in Leatherface. But by the time I was in Night of the Living Dead, I really knew what I was doing. And also the actors were so good in that. Like when you're in a scene with other actors that know what they're doing, your acting elevates because they command your presence, you know. And certainly Tony Todd, who I was terrified of in the first few moments of working with him, it's just such a real person who has no guard and so open while you're acting with him. You really connect with him, and it really,
that's awesome.
You're sort of lulled into this sense of security when you're around him. And that's exactly what I needed to get where I needed to get.
Yeah, and it's not more me saying like, you know, the original is this or the remake is that. I just love that remake. That's like,
so what you're saying is I sucked in Ghoulies too. Is that what you're saying?
I think
no,
that
I'm saying
you have proven that you can grow and learn, and that is
fall down. That is all you can back up. I get knocked down again.
Let me ask you something. How hard is it to live with making the wrong decision in it?
It's horrible.
I can't even imagine.
It's a horrible thing.
Like, yeah. Okay. No, I'm glad you said that.
It took me years. No, it took me fucking years to realize that it is okay to say, because I wasn't a complainer, it's part of the reason why I kept working. But it is okay to get a script and there's a line that is a shitbag line. It is okay to say to the director, I don't feel comfortable saying this. Can I say it in a different way? I would never do that. Yeah. So I could list 2 or 3 lines in my career that I literally watch myself tensing up as I'm about to say it because it's either a poorly written line or it's not something that's in my vernacular, even more important. Still to this day, with every actor that I work with, I say to them, can you get your mouth around these words? Like, are you able to say, some of these fucking things these writers write, and they're great, but they're thinking of some other person while they're writing.
Yeah, for sure.
But I cannot tell you the amount of times. Well, first of all, it's very weird to be asleep in bed at 3 a.m. and wake up and hear yourself talking on TV and look on TV and see some movie playing that you were in 1980. It's really bizarre. But it's even more horrifying to do it, and then you go, "Oh my God, here's the part where I fucked up. Here's the part where bad acting choice. But the thing is that as you go through time, you know the clunkers. You certainly, by your friends that are in the movie, they have them and you have them, and we both point them out to each other. I know every single one of them, and it's okay. It's a fucking movie that it's on a video shelf somewhere. Just so happens that some of them are classics, but I mean, hey,
Man, I mean, you said it. There's some of them are classics. All right, so your character in that, you kind of come off, you start off really strong in that film, and then you really end in a moment of like, oops. You really kind of, like I said, you come off as a voice of reason, and it's a pretty serious blunder at the end where you blow away. I don't want to give it. Can you spoil a movie if it's 30 years old?
If 30 years old, is it 30 years? Oh gosh.
It's 30 years
who cares?
old. So,
if they haven't seen it by now, fuck them. But anyway.
But I also heard that there was a different ending for your character. Is that true?
I never heard that. I prayed for it. Because I was thinking, because I knew what we were doing was turning out good, and I was like, they're all gonna come back.
Yeah.
No one really came back. Everyone got killed, right?
Yeah. I love
I wasn't Rambo enough to come back for another one. Patty certainly was. If Tony would have lived, I certainly think they would have done another one.
Yeah.
Maybe they can come up with some serum, and then oh no, he got shot in the head, didn't he? I still think they should use Patty and do another one. Who knows? They might. She's certainly holding together. She could pull it off,
And how was Savini at the helm? Was he?
He was good. He was.
Because he really hasn't done much since.
Well, I think that's certainly by choice. It was not an easy shoot for him. George Romero is a fucking icon.
Yeah.
Now imagine they're friends, but he's an icon that's sitting in a chair 3 feet away from you, second guessing literally every directorial choice that Tom was making. Tom had a lot of really, really good ideas, and they, trying to say this politely, they vetoed some of his choices. So it not only created a problem for Tom, who was a very machismo, knife-throwing, butch sort of creative genius,
who's been around for a long time.
Right. They sort of castrated him in some ways.
Yeah.
And then that kind of trickled down. And the thing about me was I auditioned from tapes, so I was never there in person. So I think there was a certain amount of disappointment, and I could be all in my head. I've always just said this, and I don't know if there's any truth to it, but I'm not Tom, but I'm a good actor, and I convinced him that I was Tom in my auditions. Yeah. And then when I got there and he realized I wasn't Tom, I think that fried his brain a little bit. So even though he never really gave me the treatment, I could tell he was watching me going, what? Who is this person? This is not who I thought he was. For sure. And I'm an actor, so I turned on I studied really hard to make sure I did everything right. Yeah. And but I definitely felt a little
intimidated.
I felt like a little intimidated by him, not by anyone else.
Yeah.
And too much. And I know he noticed that because 15 years later, he wrote me an email and said, there were certain things that I'm not. I love it now, and I do it. I've done it now. I'd do it now if I had to. But at the time, I had never fired a gun, for instance. And so I had to fire a gun in the movie, and I didn't know how to do it. And I desperately wanted to learn. And he took me out to go try to do it. And, I'm some fucking dude with, highlights who lives in LA. I don't know how to fire a shotgun.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know how to hold it.
And he knows how to do everything.
He knows how to do everything.
Everything. He does everything.
His frustration. I could see his frustration in, oh my God, you're not some fucking redneck who kills deer. You're not. and I could see his eyes going, oh fuck, what have I done? And but then I pulled it off. And anyway, years later he wrote me a letter saying, You did a good job, and I'm sorry I was giving you the treatment. He did say he gave me the treatment.
He did, yeah. So it wasn't your imagination.
Yeah.
Those are tough.
No, definitely it wasn't mine or
That's a
anyone
tough
else's
scenario
for that matter. Yeah, he
Good for
wasn't
you.
mean to me. He wasn't mean to me.
But
He
you
just
knew
he had a chemistry with all the other guys on set that he never had with me
really, eh? Huh.
ever. It was like, yeah, good job. Anyway,
No, really? Oh wow.
yeah.
Kudos to you.
In fact,
for...
to the point where because I'm a sensitive wussy actor, to the point where I got
Not
really
the only
quiet.
one.
I got very quiet at a certain point, and George Romero. Well, I came home one night and there was this giant like fruit basket, oddly enough, with food and cheese and wine in my room, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And it was from George and Chris, and they were like, "We want to let you know you're doing a really good job," and blah blah blah. I wasn't getting a lot of that. I wasn't getting a lot of "you're doing a good job," and I just heard a demon tapping on my window. Anyway, and then one day, in my spiral of getting quiet, he invited me to lunch on my day off and was like, you do know you're doing a really good job, right? And I was like, yeah, I think I'm doing okay. And he's like, yeah, I get that you're not being told that you're doing a good job, but you're doing a good job. Yeah. And to me, that meant everything.
Yeah,
but
it
wasn't like an abusive thing in any way, shape, or form.
No,
it
but
was
you just
nothing. I could feel that there was not a thing with us like there was. I wasn't playing basketball in between shots.
Yeah.
I was going to my dressing room and like staring at the wall.
He was like a 1950s father, as opposed to this day and age where it's like, oh, you're great, son, you're great. He was kind of like,
and I wasn't. I am one of those. I am one of those actors that needs to be told that I'm doing a good job. And if you certainly tell me that I suck, which he never did.
No, yeah.
But I'm not. You know how some people, if you say you suck and they get better,
they thrive.
You tell me I suck, I burst into tears.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So it was just a different way of working, and there was no issue. I'm just
no. It doesn't sound like it. It just you're just kind of explaining the
and now I've never been closer with him.
That's awesome.
That's great. Any of them. Yeah, we all got along. There was no drama really at all.
That's great. That's great. That's good. Good leadership on set sometimes goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I want to talk to you a little bit about the time frame when you're an actor in Hollywood back in the 80s and 90s. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sure you've got like a million and two stories, but now also is like even auditioning. You were talking about auditions, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I could have sworn I saw a picture, an audition picture or some sort of location picture with you and Brad Pitt and back in the day.
Well, that's probably true. I don't remember it, but I did see them a lot. I would see when I went to audition for Ghoulies 2, I saw Brad Pitt and Robert Downey Jr. there in the office.
And you beat their ass.
I think they were reading for something else.
Oh.
Maybe not. Maybe not. I didn't really know.
Just say
I honestly did not know who they were. Robert Downey Jr. I thought was weird. His dad was a very known person in town as a director, and he was kind of a cock. So I just, I got really good. The thing that people do at auditions in LA, or I don't know, they used to anyway, is like you go into a room and there's like 10 other guys that look exactly like you, and most of them better looking than you. And they're like, "Hey, Jerry, what's going on? Oh man, I'm tired. What are you tired for?" "Oh, I was up at Universal all weekend. Steven kept us up all night long, Spielberg." And blah, blah, blah. And you're sitting there with your paper like, fuck.
Yeah.
This guy's in a fucking Spielberg movie. And then, a year later, I would see that they were, like an extra or something.
Yeah,
but at the time, there's a lot of dick swinging that goes on in the audition room. And particularly with people like Brad Pitt and David Arquette and I mean, literally everyone. I met everyone. They're so good looking that you can't look at them. You have to understand, we were like 23. So if you think Brad Pitt is handsome now, you should have seen him at 23. Well, like you knew he was going to be a famous person. So I got really good at putting my blinders on. I used to, back when they had Walkman, I would put earphones on and turn on music because I didn't want to hear what they had been doing. They were all working nonstop. I was a person who did like a ton of commercials, and that was kind of my thing. And yes, I would see all of them.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And it's good now.
And we're gonna say that you beat out Robert Downey Jr. and Brad Pitt for the role in Ghoulies
Okay, you
2,
can say
and
that.
we're gonna go
I
by
think
it.
we were not reading for the same role, but yes, I
Come
don't
on.
think they were reading for Merle from Ghoulies 2. I think they may have been reading for the hot guy in Ghoulies 2.
We don't
Ghoulies 2
know.
audience, nothing.
It can't be proven. It can't be proven. And so, and without
Let
anybody
me
to
tell you
say
something about
otherwise.
Ghoulies 2. Out of all the shit that I've done, Ghoulies 2 is the number one thing that people quote when they see me. It's like the weirdest thing.
Really, eh?
Bizarre. Mm-hmm. They
That's
say,
okay.
dude, your tunes. Yeah, mostly it's dude, your tunes. Can't think of anything else.
I read something just recently, actually, and it was I think, and you are a social media beast. We can touch on that.
Well, not so much anymore. I've been banned from Facebook for 7 days for calling my friend a cunt. But
have you really?
yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Jokingly saying you're a cunt. But
yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Okay, well, anyways, but you you are, and it was funny because I saw you writing under Dean Cameron, and you kind of alluded to what you just said. You said every time you saw him in an
yeah, I'd be
audition
like,
room, you were like,
go
there's
home.
another. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
hilarious. Now, Dean Cameron, for people who don't know, played famously Chainsaw in Summer School.
Yes.
Did you go for that role? Were you up for?
No. But I'll tell you the ones that I did go for that I was pissed I didn't get.
That's my next question.
Shocker. It was between me and the guy who ended up being a huge director. Yes. Shocker. I read for. Oh my gosh, so many things.
Really?
So many things. Shocker. A lot of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I went on all of them.
And you just couldn't get one, eh?
No, I was on the TV series of it.
Freddy's Nightmares.
Yeah,
you got
more than
that.
one I did. Yeah, more than one I did. And then, The Outsiders, the TV series. That one, I tested for that. The David Arquette got that one. Yeah.
So he's your nemesis. David Arquette is
not really anymore because
not anymore, but at the time,
I just would come in and see him. And there was another guy. He's passed away. There was another guy. He was actually Irish. He was actually nice. I would talk to him. He was Irish, very good looking guy. He played the boyfriend to Roseanne's daughter on the Roseanne show. He had jet black hair that was sticking straight up. And I think he was also on the TV show Angel for a while. Irish guy. And he overdosed and died. But he was one that I would go in and be like, oh, fuck, here we go. And also Matt Latanzi. No, not Matt Latanzi. Matt LeBlanc. Now, Matt LeBlanc, forget about Friends. Matt LeBlanc was slugging him out of the ballpark.
Really?
In the 80s. He was gorgeous and young. Every single time you see him in there, you'd be like, what the fuck am I doing? And you think that you're like, I was plan C. If they get Matt LeBlanc, with me, it was always like Matthew, Michael J. Fox. If they couldn't get Michael J. Fox, then they would phone me and I would come in,
Michael J. Fox. It's not...
wear a jean jacket and go like,
Matt LeBlanc. The first time I saw him, I think was just the 10 of Us. It was ABC.
Yeah, Canadian show actually. I think. No. Wasn't he? Didn't he come from he came originally from a Canadian TV show?
Did he? I know Matthew Perry was Canadian. Well, is still.
Matthew Perry was another one. And I read for Friends. I can't remember which part. I also read for Wings, the TV show Wings. I remember I read for. I was so not right for it. I read for Speed Racer. Before they did the Speed Racer, the other one, Warner Brothers was doing Speed Racer with Keanu Reeves. Oh. And that was in the late 80s. And I tested with him to play Sprocket. And I thought, this is it, man. This is it. And then the movie fell apart.
Let me ask you something. Like a lot of times when people are doing podcasts, when people are doing movies and stuff like that, and they're like, well, and then, someone you're acting alongside becomes like, Viggo Mortensen or whatever. Mm-hmm. Are there people where you're like, I knew it. Like I saw that. I knew.
Well, with him you did.
Yeah, you were saying that you kind of
never met. There's only been a couple people with him. No exaggeration. Even when he was a nobody, he walked into a room, and his presence filled the entire room.
Really? Yeah.
Every single person looked at him in the room, and that's without him. I'm talking about jeans and a torn T-shirt and hiking boots and stinking to high heaven. not caring and not trying and not posing at any way. He would walk into a room and his presence would fill the room. There was never any doubt that he was going to be a huge star. And I can't tell you the amount of times, whether or not he really meant it or not, I don't know. I never really believed it. I can't tell you the amount of times he told me he's going to quit and go work in a hardware store or whatever. You know, he was one of them. My other friend Gail O'Grady, who's still working to this day, they just something about them that they don't really care enough to get in their own way. With me, I would be hyperventilating on my callback and thinking I'm not good looking enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not talented enough. In the hitting my head against the wall in the audition room. And the moment that I learned to go in there and kind of act like I already had the power to be nice is when I would get it. Yeah. And I learned that from her for sure. He taught me, I remember, he never broke a sweat. I know you have to wrap this up, but he never broke a sweat. And he taught me this relaxation exercise that I actually did on Leatherface, when you go into the bathroom in the audition room and you relax your feet, your ankles, your legs, or whatever. And so they just kind of knew, but he was definitely one of them. Yeah, to answer your question.
Different type of blood, eh? Okay.
In a huge way.
I could, sorry?
In a huge way.
Yeah. So I could go on for a lot more with you, but I will kind of wrap it up. But what I want to do first, I just want to throw out a couple of names, and I just want you to give me like a sentence for a name. Okay. You ready for this?
Okay.
Drink.
Hold on.
Drink.
I might do a spit take.
I'm waiting. No, I'm not going to hit you with too much hurt.
I think I know you well enough to know that a couple of these names are not going to be ones I want to hear.
No. There are a couple that might be irrelevant. I'm not.
Go ahead, Jason. Right. Hassan.
All right, William Butler. Are you ready? Barbara Crampton.
Okay, Jason. Oh my God. What do you want to hear about her? She's incredible.
Just sum it up. We're going to do a nutshell of your experience with them.
Never met a woman in all of your life that is more prettier and sexier, but also has the brain of a guy that you can hang out with her, and she's not complicated and incredibly smart, and was so encouraging to me when I met her, and who I still don't ever see her at all, but I still have tremendous affinity to her. She's part of the reason why I got skinny, because when I was working with her on From Beyond, she kept saying to me, like, you're not built like a fat person. Like, what's going on with you? Why are you not losing weight? I was like, what? She's like, come back to Sports Connection with me when we go back to LA. And her and I got she was going to be in Playboy, and we both lost weight. She was right. I was a racehorse when she was done with me. I have nothing but good things to say about her. She's a brilliant actress. She's a really kind person, and she has not one eyedropper of bullshit, which is so hard to find in LA, which is, I think, part of the reason why she no longer lives there.
All right.
I don't know what that says about me.
So, all right. Sum it up. You're not a fan of her. All right. So
I hate her. It's incredibly difficult.
Viggo, you've said enough of him. Do you still stay in contact with him?
I do. I heard from him on Christmas, and then I saw he lives in Spain right now. So I just wrote him a couple days ago because it's been blizzarding there, and he has a movie coming out actually. Starring himself and Lance Henriksen, and Lance was in Madhouse. So we've been chatting about that. I can't wait to see his new movie. It's his first directorial debut. Awesome. Sorry, the name escapes me of the film. And yes, I do. We had a break of about 10 years. Like I said, I may or may not have fallen down sort of a synthetic drug rabbit hole for about 10 years, but I clawed my way out.
And I think we've done a very compelling interview without even going there. So that's
It's all right. It's all right. Who knows? By the end of it, I might fall off the wagon. Who knows what's
No, come on. Okay. Jordan Ladd.
Amazing, kind, beautiful, gorgeous.
You hate all these people, eh?
I mean, hilarious. I'll tell you I think last movie, her and I used to go to the movies. The last movie that her and I saw, this is how cool Jordan Ladd is. We went to go see This Is It, that Michael Jackson movie.
Yeah.
And when they started playing the music, Jordan Ladd and I got up and danced in the aisles all night. That's the kind of girl Jordan Ladd is.
That's cool.
So pretty. My God, you don't get any prettier than that. I just constantly want to work with her, but it's weird. You get like, when you start getting a position to like have jobs for people, you have a list of like 10 people, and then it's like, for the next 10 years, I directed a Disney Channel where everyone was like 8 years old, like, it doesn't, the planets don't align. Anyway.
I've always wondered about that. Like, okay, so you're good friends with some of these people, and like you're the producer of a project and stuff. Like, how hard is it to juggle? Hey, remember me? We used to dance in the aisles in the theater, and versus like, what's going on.
First of all, what do you mean by that?
Well, are there pressures from people from your past that, like, once you're kind of producing rather than like, acting, or when you're not calling the shots, but when you're producing stuff, are you getting people coming up to you that you've worked with?
No, because most of the things that I do are sort of easy for them to get, and then the things that are huge, they know that it's out of my hands. Anything that I get, which is about once a year compared to the middle shelf things that I get, where I can pretty much hire who I want. The important things, you don't have the last say. I can say I want a person, but they already know who they want. So most of the time, they just listen to you and go, Anyway, so here's who you're going to use.
Got it. All right. Yvonne De Carlo.
Okay. What do you want to know?
What's your impression, your relationship that you've had with this person? I'm not telling you to tell me about what this person's legacy is. So I want to know how it was with
blanket.
Sorry?
You want to hear the get off my fucking blanket story?
No, I mean, hey, I'm just bringing up a name.
Right, so first of all, she called me Bobby the entire time that we worked together, which is okay, because I was calling her Lily the whole time. No, that's not true. So anyway,
it's Lily Munster for people who don't know.
I know you're trying to wrap this up, and you know how fucking long-winded I am. I'm just going to basically
I'm in no rush.
Okay. So I was working on this movie called Cellar Dweller that Buechler was directing, and it was the last Charlie Band movie that Charlie Band doesn't even remember that he did, by the way. Every time I bring this up, he's like, what's Cellar Dweller? I'm like, movie you paid for? But anyway, so every TV, I'm not going to say has been, but TV star of yesteryear was in Cellar Dweller. And Yvonne De Carlo was one of them. And I was like, oh my God, Lily Munster's in this fucking movie. I'm a horror nerd. And there she is. And she still had the Lily Munster eyeshadow and all this shit. And she was just an insufferable bitch who she was not nice at all. She was a genius. She was a genius.
In what way? In what way? How like
she couldn't remember her lines. She couldn't remember her lines. So she would take her lines and she would cut them up with scissors. And when you were in a scene with her, she would tape one line on this can and one line on her phone. I'm going to say one line on this. And she'd go, during the scene, she'd go, well, Anastasia, you think you can come in here and tell me how to run my girls' school? Well, you've got another thing coming.
Oh, man.
I've been a teacher for a very long time. She was a genius at it, really good.
Wow.
And she also had a weird OCD thing where wherever she went, she put this blanket where she sat. Wherever she went, she put this blanket and she would put it on the bar stool in the studio bar, on a chair, wherever she went, she put this blanket. So I was just some idiot. I was just mesmerized by her. And one day she's doing a scene where she's opening the furniture and reading her lines off of all the equipment in the room. And I go in the adjoining bedroom. I'm waiting to put Mike Deke in this giant werewolf outfit. And I lay on the bed in the set and fall asleep. And I wake up and Lily Munster is standing over me and she's like, my blanket! Get off my fucking blanket! She starts screaming at me, right? I'm like, what? I realized that she'd spread that blanket on the bed. I was like, oh my God, Mr. Carlo, I'm so sorry. Start folding it. Get in! Don't fucking fold my blanket. So she took her blanket. I was like, oh my God. I go to the bar. I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. Everyone's teasing me. They're like, that I had to work with her like all week long. I was like, what now?
Wow.
I'm gonna have to face Lily Munster's pissed off at me. So the next morning, they start drinking in Italy at like 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Like you go for a whiskey, and then you have a little vodka limon, and we were drinking in the bar, and she saw me getting a whiskey. I saw her eyes like going and things. So she was just staring at me. I was like, oh fuck, she hates me. So we're on set, and she's like, she sees me drinking out of my little coffee cup, which had whiskey in it. Young man. Yes, Mr. Carlo. Did I see you in the bar earlier? Yes, Mr. Carlo. Come closer. Yes. The next time you go to the bar, will you please bring me a small taste of gin? I have a lot of congestion. Absolutely, Mr. Carlo. It'd be my pleasure. What's your name? Billy. Thank you, Bobby. Okay, great. Just put it in the coffee cup. I go, absolutely. So I go to the bar. I get a coffee cup. I go fill that motherfucker to the brim. Right? So they pour this thing of gin. Like I'm teetering, walking back on set. It's full of gin. I handed it to her. It was like her eyes lit up like it was Christmas morning. It's like, thank you, Bobby. Thank you. So for the next like 4 days, I worked with her. It was like, oh, I keep hearing a demon. For the next 4 days, I was bringing her these coffee mugs full of gin, and I got so bold. I would be like, Mr. Carlo, it might be good if we put a pearl onion in that for because they say that onion, it helps clear the congestion. No, but I think a twist will do nicely. So 4 days of me giving her gin. Her and I collectively, we killed a bottle, and so it was the last day of filming, and I was like, oh, I thought that she had gone, and so I'm sitting on set, and I hear Bobby, and I look, and there's Yvonne De Carlo, and she's holding that fucking blanket, right? And I thought, I'm so stupid and such a narcissist that I actually thought that she was going to give me the blanket. She comes close to me holding the blanket. I put my hands on it. She put it away from me.
Oh, wow.
I just wanted to tell you goodbye, Bobby. And I was like, oh, goodbye, Mr. Carlo.
Oh my God.
I actually believed that she was going to give me the fucking blanket. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That story is legendary on that studio lot. Yeah.
That's
so
hilarious.
Yes, she was cool. And I just know that I am able to die knowing that Yvonne De Carlo didn't hate me, which she was hating me at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, she was in 10 Commandments. I was like,
oh my God, she was
gorgeous.
still beautiful.
Holy
God. Gorgeous and just so smart. I mean, all these actors, even I hire Michael Pare a lot. These actors that understand how to work the camera, they're incredible. And she didn't know a single line, but you did not know it. If you watch that movie, you'll see her opening doors and doing stuff. They know how to do the dance,
Yep. No, I have to now. That's awesome. Okay, so Roy Scheider.
I never worked with him.
52 pickup. Oh, but
I didn't work with him. I only worked with Vanity. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Roy Scheider was great. When I played the shark in Jaws, I was great.
Yeah.
He was complaining. Yeah. We both got facelifts at the same time after the movie. No, I didn't work with him. I worked with Vanity.
All right. Gary Busey.
I didn't work with Gary Busey either. He did the voice.
Oh, so you didn't?
Of Ginger Dead Man. No, because I wasn't a part of Ginger Dead Man 1. Remember, I came in on part 2.
Oh, okay, so you didn't.
Buechler did the voice of Ginger Dead Man in part 2, and I did the voice in Ginger Dead Man part 3, Audience Nothing.
All right. Tom Sizemore.
How dare you?
Well, I had 2 strikes in a row there. I had to redeem myself.
Well, you got that one right. I don't really know where to begin with him. Is this a short story?
It's your story.
I directed. Okay, I'm gonna say my book comes out on May
Yeah, well,
You gotta
I
make
figure,
money.
but maybe you could
There's
give
a whole chapter dedicated to this.
sell
Basically,
that
I
book.
will tell you that I did a movie for a company, and they kept pushing to hire him in the film. And I knew he was a brilliant actor, and he certainly is. But I also knew that everyone that I had worked with had either been punched or, berated or,
Yeah.
and I'm not that person. Like, I am 100% not that person.
No.
You cannot intimidate me. I was raised on the Carnival Midway. There's nothing that you can do that will break me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of said that to him in so many words at our meeting when he finally showed up. I just said, am I going to regret hiring you? And he was like, no. And he was very nice and sober and no, I'm ready to get my career started again.
And you said that to him? You just...
Of course I did.
Yeah.
I said, am I going to regret hiring? You better believe I did.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I said, I've been warned by literally everyone that knows you that you and I are going to hate one another and that you're going to slow down my progress. Is that true? And am I going to regret this? Absolutely not. He laughed. He's actually, when he drops all the fucking horse shit
Yeah.
that he pulls, which is nonstop, he's actually a lot like everyone else.
Yeah.
He's a decent guy. He just knows that there's a certain amount of shitting on everything around him that he can get away with because he's Tom Sizemore and people suspect it. And from the moment he got there, he shit on me, thank God, not literally, on the production, on my schedule, on the other actors, was drugged out of his mind. And
around what year was this?
This wasn't that long ago.
Oh, okay.
What was this? 12, 13 years ago? I don't know, 10 years ago. It wasn't that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
He just was a horrible person that, endangered everyone that he was around.
Wow.
He pushed there was a fake cinder block wall that was about 15 feet tall that was made of cinder blocks that these guys were supposedly breaking down, and it was a breakaway wall, but it was made with real cinder blocks.
Mm.
And he didn't think that anyone saw because the camera wasn't rolling, but I was watching and the producers were watching. He shoved the wall trying to push the cinder blocks, thinking that he was pushing the cinder blocks down so they'd have to rebuild them so he could go fuck around in his dressing room. I mean, this is what an asshole this person.
Wow.
I mean, he's garbage of the lowest degree. Honestly, he has zero interest in acting. He was horrible, and that's the tip of the iceberg. So,
wow.
My comment on him is, God bless him. I'm surprised to see that he's still working. I'm even more surprised to see that he hasn't driven off a cliff. And let's just hope that he sees the light and that everything's good. He's on my non-hire list.
All right.
It was horrible. And coming out on May 1st, my book will talk all about it.
Yes, and I have no problem with you putting that date out there.
I know that I haven't mentioned my book, so I want to make sure I get it in there before we.
Can I just Tawdry? You know what? Until I saw the cover of your book, I've never seen that word spelled out.
It's funny because you're one of the more tawdry people that I know.
Well, I should know. Well, now I've seen it. Now I'm be caught off guard.
It's so weird. It seems like you would know that word because you are rather tawdry.
And I've never been called tawdry before.
Well, that's not to your face.
It shows. I
have a tawdry Jason Pellegra tawdry Facebook page.
Wow. You know what? I'd be flattered because it's
You've got a lot of fans, Jason. You got a lot of fans.
Are they fans on that tawdry page though? I don't know if they'd be fans.
Well,
I think they'd be
mostly women, wounded women. No, I'm kidding.
Pictures of me like passed out and all that kind of crap.
Leaving.
And then it's like the best page
your car
ever.
peeling out. There's mostly pictures of your car peeling out. Leaving 3 a.m. Anyway.
Okay, so we won't end with Tom Sizemore. How about we end?
Oh, that's okay. Listen. I take it all back. He's a great guy.
That's awesome. It's on the record. Yeah, you hate Crampton, you hate Jordan Ladd, you love Sizemore. We're getting it all down.
No, I would love to see both Barbara Crampton and Jordan Ladd in a scene with Tom Sizemore and just see the fur fly because they would not put up with that shit.
They would beat the shit out of him, probably.
This fucking guy, I'm talking about showing up 4 hours late for work every day. You would. I'm not even telling you part of it. I
No, I can
literally
imagine.
thought I was directing him. He was holding a coffee cup like this, and I was directing him, and he started going like this with the coffee cup, and I went, Tom, and he stopped, and I was like, what are you doing? Like he was about to punch me in the face with a fucking coffee cup.
Wow.
Like nuts.
That's
nuts.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Can't wait
Get
to
it
work
out.
with him again.
Get it out. I want this to be.
Can't wait to work with him again.
All right. So, but anyways, I don't want to end with him. Let's end with someone that is special to you. And
Jesus.
Sorry?
Jesus.
Yeah, was Jesus is very, I know Jesus plays a big part in your life.
I'll say.
But how about we'll end it with Buechler.
Oh, John Buechler is the best guy ever. That is a very nice way to end this conversation. He was an incredible person who opened a billion doors for me, who unflinchingly believed in me and many others, gave us all such a huge chance, remained our friend forever, gave Kane Hodder his break, gave me his break, gave so many Oscar-winning. I mean, Erin Kruger has like what 35 Emmys. She's a makeup artist. She started out as a slime jockey, just right alongside me. Mike Deek, who's worked on all of the Michael Bay movies, he gave so many of us our start. Was a very funny, unique person who always fought for the underdog. He was such a great guy, and you know, when he called me, said he needed to talk to me, and I didn't call him back because I wasn't quite sure what he was getting at. I tried to get him a directing job at Disney, and John was, you know, an interesting person. He was a good director, but he certainly was not a corporate filmmaker. He had a, you know, a habit of trying to tell people like, you know, Disney Channel how he was going to fix their fix their programming. He definitely had his little things, but that didn't mean that I didn't love him. And so he'd been calling me, and I wasn't quite sure why he was calling. And then I heard from, I think, Deke, that said he had heard that John was sick. So Deke and I went out to the Valley, to the hospital that he was at, and we had found out that he was in fact very sick. And you know, I called not just me and Aaron and Mike. We called everyone from the original gang of the MMI gang. John Criswell, so many people, Howard Berger, and we all drove out and we all had a lovely reunion where John was still very awake, and we all thanked him, and he just was such a tremendous guy. And after that, we continued to go and visit him. And I, like I said earlier, I think Kane Hodder and myself and Anthony Ferrante, who's the Sharknado guy, we were there on the Sunday where John, it was obvious that John was going to pass on. And he just was, even on his last moments, even in his last moments, he took the time to say, I thank you for being my friend, and I believe in you, and don't ever stop. To his last breath, he was an amazingly kind person, and I'm so lucky to have met him. I cannot even begin to tell you. It's a perfect way of, he's really the perfect last person to say, because he really gave so many of us our start. He was a really good guy.
Yeah, it sounds like it, and yeah, I'm glad you you know, you said what you said about him, because
yeah, he was cool. We had this funeral at my house, and
oh,
it
wow.
was just remarkable to see the amount of people that showed up here. And like I said, Oscar winners that he gave their first jobs to, you know. I mean, John was no brilliant artist by any sense of the means, but he understood filmmaking. He understood what you could get away with, and he certainly was smart enough to surround himself with brilliant artists who helped him get things done. He was a really good guy.
Yeah, definitely someone who I wish you know, I'd have the opportunity to interview, but sadly that's not the case. But you know, his stories will live on through.
His story lives on.
I'm
Yes,
sure.
he's
I'm
an
sure I'll get a
incredible
lot of
guy.
people on this show that will be able to share some Buechler stories, and
He was an
look forward to that.
incredible person. Yeah, and you are too, by the way.
Well, I
Yeah,
appreciate
you're
that.
really smart. A lot of good questions.
I appreciate you very much for being my very first guest on the
I
show.
can't believe that. How can
And
that be?
I lobbied for you. I wanted you to be my first, and you can spin that any way you want. I don't even care.
Well, I'm here, you know.
But
it's just me and the dogs.
I just wanted you to be my first because I do really respect your career significantly. Actually, there's one more question.
Okay, sure.
Susan Jennifer Sullivan, is she alive or is she dead?
Oh my God! This is the fucking question of the. What is going on with this?
Like, seriously, if she like, I'm asking with genuine curiosity. I don't know.
Asking.
Okay.
What the fuck is going on? Here's what I hear. This is what I hear. I don't know if it's true or not. I hear that she is still alive, and that I'm finding the answer to be very unbelievable, because I have to tell you, she was one of the nicer people on set, one of the cooler people. She wasn't full of shit. She wasn't Hollywood. She was really, really nice. She was nothing like that character. She was very chatty.
She played,
very
sorry,
nice.
For people who don't know, sorry, she played Melissa on Friday the 13th Part 7.
Correct.
Yeah.
She was very beautiful, and she was very, very nice and very chatty. And then she, you know, they wheel us out at all these things. You never see her at any of them. And you know me, I'll go to the opening of an envelope. So I always, if there is one, you think I would have seen her. And
Yeah.
I never see her. And then I read that she'd passed away, and I was like, oh, that makes sense, like, because she's dead. But then you hear all these grumblings that she's not dead. But here's what I'm hearing, which I find to be very, it just doesn't seem like her. What I'm hearing is that she has turned her back on acting, which is understandable, but that she's embarrassed by the movie, so that she doesn't want to be. She's married to someone who's not into that lifestyle. It's sort of a conservative situation. This is what I've heard.
Could be a religious thing.
That she doesn't want to acknowledge that she was in the movie, and that she's not dead, that she just doesn't want to, she wants to forget about it. And I just have such a hard time getting my head around that, because I mean, it's not like these movies are Passion of the Christ. I mean, It's a fucking Friday the 13th movie. What do you care that you were in it and like, oh yeah, I was in that, whatever. But I don't believe that she's dead. What do you think?
You know what? I mean, it's interesting to hear you say that. When you hear that someone's dead enough times, you tend to lean that way. It usually.
Yeah. I've heard that my career's dead many times.
Well, no, anything but. Check him out on IMDb. He's got like a million things happening. But
clear.
No. But I hope it's the latter, actually. I hope that she's turned her back on Friday the 13th and horror films and is living happily with
So you think she might be dead?
I have no, I mean, I never heard.
And why
you
are
told me
people saying,
that.
but wait, why are people saying she's dead if she's not dead?
But that's the thing, right? Like, you know, and
for what reason?
it's a pretty morbid hoax. But
I think you and I
yeah,
need to get a Corvette.
Yeah, it's got to be a Corvette.
MapQuest, a convertible Corvette.
Yeah.
And we need to go and gather clues, and we need to go and find where Jennifer Banco is.
All right.
It can't be that hard.
So, I think this is a post-COVID operation. So we're gonna
correct.
We're gonna wait for COVID, and then we're gonna hit the roads in a convertible Corvette. Any color? Does it matter?
I think candy apple red.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Summer.
Right?
Yeah.
Corvette Summer.
And we'll get Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill. Yeah, we'll just throw him in the back.
Problem is he won't shut up the whole time he's there. But I mean, he's interesting. I mean,
okay.
I talk more than Mark Hamill does.
Okay. Well.
Okay, so it's me, you, Mark Hamill, candy apple red Corvette convertible, and then we just figure out where Jennifer Banco is. He's not even going to know who she is. But
wait, Banco? No, Banco or
What's her name? Jennifer Banco?
No, you're talking about
no, that's
the
the
little
other
girl.
broad. That's the other broad. Good Lord, don't get me started on her.
Yeah.
No, that's a whole other broadcast.
Susan Jennifer Sullivan.
Jennifer Sullivan. Yeah, Jennifer
Yes.
Sullivan.
Okay. Hey,
Banco.
listen, I'm in because I'm all about the truth. You know, we got to get down to the bottom. I just have one. I can't, I don't want to drive. I'm not a driver.
I'll drive.
I
I'm a
drive,
good
but
driver. And I zone out. I drink coffee. I have a really good playlist.
Okay, maybe I will
And
drive.
we can hit all the. We'll hit all the. What are the good freeway restaurants?
I don't want to die on my way to
No,
finding
I'm a
out
good
if someone's
driver. I'm a
dead.
good driver.
Okay.
We'll go to like A&W Root Beer. Do they have those where you guys are? Or we have rallies.
Way up north, eh?
Yeah, we'll have cheeseburgers, and then we'll just find her. I think that her parents are alive. I mean, I think she's alive. I think she's alive.
I'd like to think honestly, and I'm being serious here. I'd like to really believe that you are right, and she's alive, and maybe she's just embarrassed about the film.
I think
she doesn't need to be
bullshit. Yeah, I think she really does wear pearls like she did in the movie. I think she's a rich lady.
She's gorgeous. I was in love with her as a kid.
I think a lot of people were.
Let's go find her.
I think she's not going to want anything to do with you. I mean,
I know.
Tell you now.
She doesn't know that.
But maybe we can break her.
Well,
if you bring
I don't want to find her to break, but
maybe you can shave and get that hat off. I don't know. We'll put a tie on you. We can bring your wife. I don't know if your wife is gonna.
I got to shave. No.
Well, I don't know, but anyway, Jennifer Banco Sullivan. No, Jennifer Sullivan.
We fused.
No, Jennifer Banco.
I can tell you those two.
I got a Corvette. Let me tell you something. If you and I got a candy apple red Corvette, we could find Jennifer Banco in 20 minutes.
All right. So how about that's our backup plan? If it gets a little too hard.
Please don't let it be. No.
All right. Okay.
All right. No, let's find her. I think we there's like a Richard Simmons podcast where everyone's like, where the fuck is Richard Simmons? Let's just only do a Jennifer Sullivan. Where the fuck are you?
This is a web series in the making.
We need to find her.
People would want to watch this.
Where the fuck is she? How far can she? How hard can it be to say, that's me?
The only thing that sucks is if we do find out that she has passed, then it's going to be a sad ending.
Well,
it'll be a 1970s film instead of a 1980s.
If she's passed, she's been gone for.
Yeah. But I like how you're holding out hope. I like that you think she's alive. So we're going to go with that.
I think she is alive. I do believe she's alive. Okay. Have you dug? Because I've dug.
No.
Dig. There's pictures of a person that looks just like her.
I've seen one recently. I've seen one recently, and it really does look like her.
Yeah, I think
it really does. But I mean, nowadays,
she's a very hot, rich lady who doesn't give a shit about the movies. That's okay. She's one out of what, 1 billion of us who loves the franchise. That's okay. She doesn't have to like it. No. But just give a little nod. Yeah, that was me. I can tell you how pretty she was. She was so beautiful that I can still even tell you what she was wearing, because I remember seeing, oh my God, she's beautiful. Even walking into a set and being just so perfectly pretty.
Yeah.
She had pants on and an untucked shirt on. I can still tell you. I remember that white shirt she had on. And then I remember also the stunt man who gets thrown across the room and the wig was all cockeyed. Watch the show. That was back in LA. Anyway, we got to find her.
All right.
Another tap on my window.
All right. So let me leave you with this. All right. So your career is so varied, but if we could sum up Billy Butler in one sentence, give it to me.
A person who made it despite his own limitations. My belief in my drive for happiness by far outweighed my my God-born talents. I just learned along the way. I visualized it and made it happen. Is that one sentence?
No, it's three.
You fucking
flat out 3 sentences, a lot of commas in there.
Hold on. I'm gonna just burn some sage right now. You're right.
It's okay. It's okay.
I think I manifested it. That's it.
Is this a 4th sentence? How long is this going to go on?
No, I just rewrote my.
I'm joking. I'm joking. I love this. I don't know. You were my first interview. I don't know if I'll get better. I don't.
You won't
If I
get
do,
anyone
I'll,
else after this.
if
Of course you will. Of course you will.
if I do get better than this, I'll be a fortunate person because.
Well, you're certainly not going to get anyone as long-winded as me. You're going to have to cut this into 4 parts.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm happy with it. We went to a
It's
few
not
places.
exactly a video that you're gonna be able to watch on the subway. You're gonna have to take a long train.
It's okay. It's okay. It was this is what I wanted. And however I cut it up, that's up to me. And I'm sure regardless, it'll be a treat for a lot of people to get this insight from you. And
well, thank you for having me. I hope I delivered, and I'll be around.
I just told you delivered big time. Gee,
Thank you.
You second guess yourself. You don't need to. You were.
No, I'm bored. I'm as bored with myself as many others are. I'm just another schlepper who's trying.
What about me? How many podcast invites do you get in a year? Just exaggerate. Yeah, exactly. Right. So
no, and how many I deny? That's the more important part.
Well,
I told you. What did I tell you? I was like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm fucking sick of talking about myself. I cannot even tell you. I get that,
and that's the uphill battle I face. Right. Another podcast. What the heck's this guy? I'm hoping
do you feel that way too. I'm hoping you find somebody that's funny and interesting. I mean, there's so many people. I mean, I could give you a list of 10 people that you would love talking to. You got to interview Amanda Wyss. She's brilliant.
Well, you got to tell her that. I'll definitely
do it. They'll all do it.
You're going to interview them?
No, yeah, I will.
Great, thanks. Take my job.
I'm going to bed after this. Are you kidding me?
Awesome. Well, you know what? I really do thank you for your time, your insight. You've been a great pleasure to interview, and I wish you nothing but the best. Yeah, and one last, when's the book coming out?
My book comes out on May 1st. I know that this is going to be news to everyone because I haven't mentioned it earlier in the interview. May 1st it ships, but you can pre-order it on Dark Ink, the website. And it's the same people that did Steve Johnson's book and did Tom Savini's book. And I'm really, really proud of it. It has a billion times more stories than I just told you. I'm the luckiest horror nerd on the planet. And it's just a book about believing that you can be happy in life enough that you can make things happen. And that's basically who I am.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yep. And I can't wait to read it.
I know. I can't wait for you to read it.
Thank you, Billy Butler, for joining us.
Thank you,
and
Jason.
And this is that's it for the very first episode of the Slices podcast on the Horror Slash channel. Be sure to subscribe.
Yes.
It's
Thank you.
It's going to be good. All right. Thank you. Take care.
Yay.